Everybody, welcome back to my channel, where today I want to ask you if you are a witch, if you are a warlock, or if you are a vampire. Have you ever been involved in a conversation where it just keeps kind of going back and forth with no resolution, and you can tell that the conversation between all parties is being kind of disrupted and challenged because of an almost egocentric battle? In some cases, that's because you have a couple of strong personalities. And in other cases, the truth is that there's not truth in the conversation on at least one side of the communication channel. So for an example, on my other channel, I talk about some personal frustrations and circumstances that I've gone through when trying to communicate with a direct relative. And that direct relative will oftentimes respond with communication like, no matter what I say, I'm always going to be wrong, according to your point of view. Now, if the person who is telling me that is always telling me lies, then how is it that my truth is going to cause so much offense? So I recognize that in the past, pretty much all of us have been witches, warlocks, energy vampires, etc. and so forth, because none of us are perfect, right? So in one recent post, I suggested that, there's an aspect of narcissism to all of us. All of us have this image that we typically have been taught to uphold. For an example, we typically value titles and circumstances. Like, for an example, if somebody has the title of, well, let's just say the president of whatever country we happen to be in, whatever township that we happen to be overseer of. Let's say that our title is president. In a lot of cases, you would expect for that title to have been earned. And so because of this, we give a great deal of respect and higher regard to those people that have that title, and that's just the way it is. I'm merging into traffic. That's what I was waving at, in case you were wondering. Right now, I just received my vehicle back. It was out of commission for quite some time, and it was out of commission in a strange way. It happened while I was just going to mail some items to two different recipients of the eBay auctions that I had going at the time. And while that was happening, I was having a conversation that was proving to be a little bit fruitless, just like what I'm talking about. And the conversation kept going back and forth between somebody who continues to present almost an egocentric rebuttal to everything that I say. And so nothing that I say is being taken at face value. It's just being argued back. It's not even being rebutted with truth, because there is no truth to apply to the conversation for whatever reason from the opposing side. And that's okay. The only reason I was trying to have that conversation to begin with is because we've continued to spend a lot of time going in circles over these conversations that have not panned out to be worthwhile. And while that was happening, again, my vehicle suddenly had this unusual issue. If you're watching my channel, you understand I talk a lot about situations that include possibly a spiritual or supernatural realm. And some people who hear these words might say, you're just one of those new age people or what have you. All of these titles are correct. Whether you call me a warlock or someone practicing law of attraction, or someone who's into Christianity, or someone who's into Buddhism, or someone who's into peace. No matter how you put it, the fact is that I am absolutely learning everything I can about how our energies transpire back and forth and how they're transmitted in terms of actual value. So today I spent almost $3,000 on my vehicle's repair, which is quite a bit of money. It's quite a bit of supposed energy. The only thing is that it's just, all I had to do was hand over a card. I handed over a card and I got back a working vehicle. And all throughout the course of this exchange of energy, I treat that energy the way it is. It's a secondary reflection of actual energy. The actual energy that we have is so much more valuable than the currency and the title that we think is so admirable to have, that I totally overlook whether someone has the title of president or not. I'm not wowed anymore. Back in the past, I used to be wowed when I would see in person something like an NBA star or a rock star. You know, I got to meet my favorite rock icons in person, and I was in awe. I was almost in reverence of those people. Now, the thing that has changed between then and now is that all of us are just people, and I recognize that. Once I stopped considering what other people's opinions might be of me while I was doing whatever it is that I was doing, then I learned that is the space where I operate as my true self. Once I became my true self, I started to receive a true amount of wealth. And that true amount of wealth is so much more valuable than the currency exchange that we typically tend to use that has pictures of former presidents. I'm not trying to discount the money, the energy that we exchange and reciprocate with one another. I'm not trying to say it's valueless. It's a great representation of responsibility. Some of us are fully responsible for the things that we are entrusted to maintaining. And some of us are not quite as responsible. And so, for whatever reason, we let those things around us fall apart. And sometimes that includes ourselves. Now, because it takes one to know one, I'm going to tell you, I let myself fall apart. I was unable to do basic physical exercise. And when I say basic, I mean run 1 mile continuously, nonstop. Now, regularly, I'm currently able to run a mile in about 11 minutes, which is absolutely slow. However, it's still a full mile. I'm able to run a full mile. That's a mile more than most Americans can do right now. And I'm not saying that to chide anyone or to point out somebody and put them down. I am included in this set of circumstances. In order for me to take care of that which is around me, I also need to take care of myself. If I'm not taking care of myself, then I am absolutely not protecting my health. So, what I've tried to do in this conversation right here is to showcase that if I shortcut the conversations that are spinning wheels constantly, like for an example, that former relative that I was talking, or the current, direct relative that I was talking about instead of with, I would totally be talking with them if they were able to have this conversation. But instead of spinning my wheels, talking constantly about the same topics and being told over and over, Ray, everything I say, you're going to say it's wrong. Or Ray, stop hiding behind someone's skirt. Or Ray, I think that you have negative energy towards me. I don't have any negative energy towards anybody. The only reason that I'm able to continue to say that, honestly, is because I recognize how much it can cost someone when negative energy is leveraged against them. Negative energy can be leveraged against someone with or without our participation if we don't fully control our own thoughts. If we're unable to control our own minds, how can we control our bodies? So for that reason, during this week, I've gone on a sugar fast where I have had zero sugar, zero added sugar for now 5 days. That's not really an amazing feat. You know, you can look on this platform and see a lot of people that have gone, I've gone 30 days without it, or I've gone my whole life without it, or I've gone months or a year or whatever without it. These are treats, the sugar. So is any food or entertainment that we happen to take on. They're treats. And because they are treats, if we're not treating other people to that same level of wealth, if we're not sharing those amazing experiences with one another, we're really just suffering alone in our addictions. And sometimes we are partnered up with enablers, and those enablers will consistently allow us to trip over and over and fall, and to basically to have true negative thoughts towards one another. Because oftentimes, haven't you noticed that, let's say when I talked about the president, for an example, haven't you noticed that some segments, if you talk about, in this country, we have two major parties. If you talk about one party or the other, haven't you noticed that some of these people who align with parties will suddenly not talk with the other party? That's because there is a negative connotation towards that party. And sometimes we will in a civilized manner, we will communicate with one another, but we'll always try to safeguard that ego, that little center that we keep, that private side of ourselves. And when we try to keep that side private, and we can only share that with that one other person who enables us to the point where we continue to leverage negative energy, well, in a lot of cases, we allow each other to continue the cycle of not giving glory to a higher power. President is not a higher power. They just have a title. They're allowed that title within the scope of everything so that we can all see a big picture of what it is that we're supposed to be doing with one another. Anyway, the second thing I want to mention when it comes to my journey of recovering my wealth is that right now, this video has been going for almost 12 and a half minutes. Now, when I run 1.5 miles, I slow the pace down, and my mile can take about 14 minutes. So imagine that from the point of this video starting until about 2 minutes from now, imagine running or jogging. Not everyone can do that, but some people can. And I never knew how difficult it was. So I'd like to give a shout out, first of all, to someone I know that inspired me to get into the point where I could run for a full mile. They gave me some relevant feedback to allow me to learn how to do this safely. And I also would like to give some relevant feedback to another person who I know who has continued to have this conversation with me that goes in only one direction. It never acknowledges anything from right now. It always supersedes it with trying to figure out how to hook someone into a conversation that only eventually leads to talking about other people, to gossip. I'm not into gossip. I'm only into what we can actually achieve. And as I pass these fields, these grasses that are filled with plastic all over, plastic bottles, bottle caps, wrappers from plastic bottles, paper bags, cardboard, and all kinds of debris, all I can continue to think is this is the same thing that I see in the wild, in our national parks, in our state parks, everywhere that I'm visiting. All of this destruction and decimation is it's strewn out about us. And there's nobody to help pick up the pieces. So as I go out there and pick up garbage and try to get the attention of everyone saying, hey, our wildlife could use our attention, the only thing that I can think to do that's left to do is to totally forgo everything that I knew is comfortable so that I can try to be a better person myself, a better leader. I don't aspire to become the president of anything except for to be in control of my own actions. That's all that we can each achieve. That's it. We can't control one another, but as a best friend to you, every once in a while, if I notice that there's something going on, I would like to suggest that there are ways to get past these struggles. Now, one person who I was watching today had this exact same message. They were talking about it. They were saying, hey, you can suggest something to someone, but if someone is possessed by demons, if someone's a witch, a warlock, or an energy vampire, they may not be able to receive that message. And so the only thing we can do as a friend, forgive them for they know not what they do. The only thing we can do as a friend is to just continue to understand, have patience with one another, and to have the conversation when it comes up. For me, I post this here so that other people can learn from this insight. And that's really about all I have to say. Got my vehicle back. I don't have any more warning messages coming on. I'm so excited because I'm looking forward to having another adventure where I absolutely disconnect, turning the phone off and everything, which also makes people angry for some reason. But until then, we've been going for 16 minutes. Again, that is approximately my, that's about how long it takes for me to go, probably about 1.5 miles now. And that's a long time to be running. That's a pretty challenging thing to do if we haven't continued to run like we used to do as children. Children have an abundance of energy. And so our parents really wanted to have us around because that energy is something that they're able to enjoy. That energy is something that's able to give them energy. When you have you ever noticed that? When you have a place of employment, you always have someone that has high energy, positivity. That stuff is priceless. And there is no card that will hold the limit of that abundance. Only you can. And I'm telling you, because you have that capability within you. So I hope you've enjoyed the blue skies overhead. I hope you've enjoyed the fact that I was able to use my traffic avoidance feature and bypass all of the roadblocks. I hope that you saw that I was able to maneuver around all the people who were parking in the wrong lane to turn. How I was able to navigate just as sharply as a sharp instrument, as a maintained instrument. Sharp mind. Because I have a sharp mind, I'm able to do things that not everyone is able to do as easily. So I have to give thanks for all of those capabilities. I mean, I don't have to, but if I'm not grateful for those things, then that means I'm not tending to those things. So all of us who are talking about being messengers and chosen and this, that, and the other, we're really talking the same language. The difference is I come from a whole other perspective, from a whole other perspective, really is all there is to say about that. I've enjoyed a lot of opportunities and experiences that have allowed me to recognize my own shortcomings. And I've had the bounty of great friendships that have allowed me to have these conversations both ways, where I could hear what it is that I'm coming up short with. Right now, I'm coming up short with putting people at ease for some reason. For some reason, my mirror is showing people a reflection that puts them at dis-ease. And that dis-ease is, it has a lot to do with whether or not you're a witch, a warlock, or an energy vampire. So I know I've operated as those roles before, and all I can do is say that I've learned a lot, and I hope to continue to learn with you in the spirit of peace and love and joy. So till next time, thanks so much for watching. Peace, love, and all that old school stuff.